Hi everyone, welcome back to Visually Hidden Selects. I'm Peter O'Brien, and today I'd like to talk to you about The Day the Earth Stood Still, from 1951, directed by Robert Wise and starring Michael Rennie, Patricia Neal, Billy Gray, and Locke Martin. This film is based on a short story entitled Farewell to the Master, written by Harry Bates, but aside from a few key elements, it really is its own story, and the screenwriter, Edmund North, he really infused a lot of relevant subtext into this particular script and subsequently the film. It really is a great social commentary on the state of the world, especially in the post-World War II time. The film really speaks for itself, and it really is a very straightforward and grounded story. I think that's one thing that really makes it stand out from other science fiction films, is the care that they took in creating and establishing the reality of this extraordinary situation. At the time this film was made in the early 1950s, there was a lot going on globally and especially politically. There was the Red Scare and the Cold War was beginning. The Korean War was in full swing. There was also the very recent conclusion to World War II that ended with atomic bombs. And so this film touches on a lot of those real social and global and political issues. And I can't stress it enough that this is a tried and true classic. It is the quintessential science fiction film that everybody should see at least once, especially if you enjoy the sci-fi genre. The film begins with an alien spacecraft landing in the middle of Washington, D.C., and on board is an intergalactic diplomat who has a message for the leaders of Earth. Surprisingly, they care less about his message and are more interested in his threat to their status quo. Michael Rennie leads the cast as the character Klaatu, the intergalactic diplomat who has the message, and he does such a fantastic job. Honestly, I think Klaatu might be my favorite character in anything ever because of how cool he is. He really plays it so smooth and so down the line. He's almost like a very early humanistic iteration of Mr. Spock because of his level of intelligence, but also his level of calm. But he's also not completely void of emotions. There are times when he smiles, there are times when he laughs, there's things he finds amusing, and there's also times when he gets upset. And it all comes across very, very nicely through Michael Rennie's performance. And he was not a well-known actor. That was part of their intention for casting him. They felt that if a well-known actor stepped out of the spaceship, it would completely diffuse the seriousness of the situation and take a lot of steam out of the story. The other big standout in this film is, of course, Gort, the robot that Klaatu brings with him to Earth. And Gort was played by a fellow named Locke Martin. Gort has no lines. He is essentially a guy in a suit, but it's really the presence of this actor and of this character that is essential to the film. Locke Martin was 7 feet, 7 inches tall, and that wasn't big enough for what they had in mind for Gort. They actually had him wear lifts in his shoes, and then the helmet sat on top of his head. There are some shots where you can see Gort's chin has some little holes at the bottom, and those were Locke Martin's eye holes, so it's a very imposing character, it is a very powerful character, and it is a very iconic character. The terrestrial cast members, played by Patricia Neal and Billy Gray, are also just really excellent delegates of the human race for Klaatu to interact with. Especially Billy Gray, because he kind of befriends Klaatu and pals around with him, and I feel like it's almost an early sort of representation of E.T. in the way that this extraterrestrial befriends a young boy who has a sort of innocence and purity about him and his outlook on the world. He's not clouded by all of Earth's problems, but he still lives here and understands how things function and operate. He doesn't have any agenda. He's just there as kind of a resource for Klaatu to acclimate himself to our civilization. But the thing that really heightens this particular film is the music. The music was composed by Bernard Herrmann, and he really made a mark with this particular one. He incorporated a lot of alternative instruments, specifically the theremin, which had only been used on a handful of film scores prior to this, but he makes excellent use, and it really adds to the mood of the film, and it helps carry over the tone of the story, and it really fills in a lot of the blanks in the dialogue when there's just action happening. It's just an exceptional score, especially for its time. And the film has a lot of very impressive cinematography going on, not only with the special effects, but also within the scenes involving Klaatu and Gort. Specifically when they are on the ship. There's just a lot of very interesting lighting choices, a lot of very engaging angles, and then a lot is done with the shadows in those particular scenes and sequences. And the special effects really hold up very, very well. There are a number of shots, not just involving the spaceship, but also a lot of very big crowd shots and a lot of very big establishing shots from around the world, because remember, this is the day the Earth stood still, not the day Washington, D.C. stood still. Funny enough, this film takes place in Washington, D.C., and not a single cast member set foot in Washington, D.C. while they were filming it. They did everything on sound stages or on the backlot of Fox Studios, and all the shots establishing Washington, D.C. were done by a second unit without any of the actors present. If there are actors in the shots, it's either a rear screen projection shot or a process shot, or they have stand-ins and are shot from a distance so you cannot tell that it is not the actors. And that's pretty impressive and kind of fantastic and fascinating. Another funny element is that all of the military vehicles and presence in this film was the National Guard, because the United States Army read the script and did not really care for the message that it had to offer the public, and they did not want to cooperate with the filmmakers. So they turned to the National Guard, who allowed them use of all the tanks and all the jeeps and all the soldiers that they could gather, because the military does play a big part in this particular story. The first time I saw this film was when I bought it on DVD blindly, and it was mostly because I knew the legacy of it, I knew things about it, so I just wanted to see for myself, from start to finish, what the big deal was, and it didn't take long for me to realize it. It's a very lean 92-minute film, and by the time you get to the end, it really is a very incredible journey with a very strong message that is still relevant today. So I don't know if the filmmakers succeeded simply because we are still dealing with a lot of the issues that are present in this particular film. And once you see this film, it will start to become a lot clearer to you just how big of a reach it has. And a lot of it, I think, just comes back to the direction of Robert Wise. He started out as a film editor, he edited Citizen Kane, and then worked his way up into filmmaking. He started directing films for Val Lewton, which is where you kind of get that exceptional shadow cinematography touches. And from here, he goes on to direct The Sound of Music, and West Side Story, and The Haunting, not to mention Star Trek the Motion Picture. So he has a very diverse body of work, and this is just one of the crown jewels in his filmography. So that's it for The Day the Earth Stood Still. I really hope you like this recommendation, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future recommendations. If you do watch The Day the Earth Stood Still, please leave us a comment and let us know what you think of the film. We will be discussing it at length on the next Visually Hidden Selects podcast, so be sure to tune into that. And until next time, see ya!